Alright guys, welcome to the review for DCA number 6. This is going over the units, excuse me, we're talking about functions and systems, so let's get started. Number 1, it says, what is the domain of the following function? So since this is a square root function, we didn't talk about this a ton in class, but one trick for finding the domain of a square root function is to set it equal to 0, because y cannot be negative. You cannot get a negative y value when you're taking the square root of something. So the smallest possible y value you can get is 0. And so if we set it equal to 0, we can find the absolute smallest x value possible, and then it's anything bigger than that number. So if we set it equal to 0, start by squaring both sides, we get 2x plus 8. It still equals 0. So we're going to subtract 8. And so we get 2x equals negative 8. Divide by 2, we get x equals negative 4. Now that is the smallest possible value that you can get on this function. Now since it's a square root function, it's going to only get bigger. Our y values are only get bigger. Again, we cannot go negative. So how we're going to say this is x is greater than or equal to negative 4. And this will always work with a square root function. Not any other function, but specifically a square root function. This trick will always work. Looking at number 2, it's asking us to solve for x in the equation below. So I first need to need to move the 60 over. So I'm going to get x squared plus 17x minus 60 equals 0. And so now we can factor this. Okay, so we can make a t-chart like we talked about briefly. I'm going to factor that negative 60, and I'm looking for a sum of positive 17. So since it's a positive sum, my negative is going to go on the smaller of the two factors. So for example, negative 1 and positive 60, negative 2, positive 30, negative 3, positive 20, negative 4, positive 15, so on and so forth. But if we look, negative 3 plus 20 gets us 17. So we're going to say x minus 3 and x plus 20 equals 0. And now to solve this, we need to set each of these factors equal to 0. So we're going to get x, oh, we're going away over there. We can't write there, that's fine. We're going to get x minus 3 equals 0 and x plus 20 equals 0. And if we're going to get x by itself on both, I'm going to add the 3 over, subtract the 20 over, and we get x is equal to 3 and negative 20. We get two solutions. Looking at number 3, it's asking us to find f of x minus g of x, and it gives us what f and g of x are. So we have 6 minus 3x squared, and we're subtracting 4x squared minus x minus 2. Now, easiest way is to distribute that negative. We've done that before. And so by distributing a negative, you essentially flip all the signs. So positive 4x becomes negative 4x squared. Negative x becomes positive x, and negative 2 becomes positive 2. Again, you just basically flip all of the signs. Once you do that, you can go ahead and combine like terms. So we get negative 3x squared and a negative 4x squared. That gets us negative 7x squared. There are no other x's, so it's just going to be plus x, and then 6 plus 2 is positive 8. And that is our answer. Looking at number 4, it says if f of x is this and g of x is this, then f times g gets us this equation. It's asking us specifically for the coefficient of x squared. So we still need to multiply the whole thing to figure out what this specific term is. So we can either FOIL this or you can use the box method. I will do FOIL on this video. So I'm going to start 4x times x squared gets you 4x cubed. 4x times 3x gets you 12x squared. 1 times x squared just gets you x squared. 1 times 3x is just 3x. Combine these two terms right here, and we get 4x cubed plus 12 plus 1 is 13x squared plus 3x. And it was asking for the coefficient of x squared, so your answer would be 13. Moving up, number 5, it's asking what is the solution, so we need to solve for x. So we're basically going to get x by itself. I'm going to subtract 8. and I'm going to get 1/2 x is equal to 1. To get rid of a fraction, remember we multiply by the reciprocal, so 1 over 2 is, we're going to multiply by 2 over 1, same thing as just 2. And so we're going to get x equals 2. Simple enough. Looking at number 6, it says, given the following system, what is the y coordinate? So we need the y value, okay? If you look, my 8 y's are, I have 8 y's on both, so I'm going to subtract these two. I'm going to use elimination for this. So 7x minus x is going to get me 6x. Those 8 y's are going to cancel out. 41 minus 47 is going to equal -6. I'm going to divide by 6, and I get x is equal to -1, but I want the y value. I'm going to use the second equation, just because it's a little easier. You could use either. And I get -1 plus 8y is equal to 47. Add the 1, add the 1. You get 8y is equal to 48. Divide by 8, we get y is equal to 6. And that's the answer we're looking for. Pay close attention to questions like this. Make sure you know if it is asking for the x or the y, because it could ask you for either. Or it could ask you for both. Like on number 7, it's asking for the solution set. So it's asking for both x and y, essentially. Now looking here, I don't have any terms that are the same, but this x has a coefficient of 1. So I'm going to add that to y over to the other side, because we're equal to 0. And I'm going to get x equals 2y. So I'm going to use substitution for this. You could also manipulate these equations and use elimination. So x equals 2y, so we're going to plug it in for x. So 4 times 2y now, minus 3y, equals 15. 4 times 2y gets you 8y. 8y minus 3y is 5y, equals 15. Divided by 5, we get y is equal to 3. And so then, excuse me, for x, we get x is equal to 2 times 3. And so we get x equals 6. So your solution set, we would write it as an ordered pair 6, 3. Moving to the back, number 8, it says, what system of equations represents the graph below? And so it's a little hard to see on my graph, so I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. And looking at the red line first, I notice my y-intercept is at 2, so I know it's going to be y equals something plus 2. And then looking at my slope, I go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. So that is a positive 1x slope. So it's going to be y equals x plus 2. Looking at the blue line, my y-intercept is at 5, so it's going to be something plus 5. And then I'm going down 1 over 1. So that is going to be a -1 slope, so it's going to be negative x, so y equals negative x plus 5. And this is my solution set. Zooming back out, let's go to number 9. It's saying, again, what is the y coordinate? So just pay attention which one it's asking for. And looking here, I notice my y's are opposite. So you could either subtract your 6x's, or you can add the y's together. I'm going to add the y's just because that's what I prefer, but you could do it the other way. Those cancel out, and we get 6 plus 6 is 12x equals 10 plus 2 is 12. So we get x equals 1. And now if we do, I'm going to choose the first equation, because why not? 6 times 1 minus 2y equals 10. 6 times 1 is 6, we know that. So subtract the 6 over, we get negative 2y equals 4. Divide by negative 2, we get y equals negative 2. And that's the answer we're looking for. Looking at 10, it says if f of x is this, g of x is this, what is f over g? So we're going to go ahead and set it up as our fraction, 10x cubed plus 5x squared over, excuse me, 10x squared. I'm going to factor that numerator because it looks like I can take some stuff out of it. So I could factor out a 5 from both of those, and then I can take out x squared from both of those. I can take out a greatest common factor. So 10 divided by 5 is 2. X cubed divided by x squared is x. And 5x squared, you're taking out 5x squared, so we're just going to say plus 1. Over 10x squared, we can't do anything with. So you notice those x squareds are now able to cancel, and then 5 over 10 is the same as 1/2. So in our fraction, we'll have a 2 on the bottom, nothing in the top, And we're actually just left with 2x plus 1 on top, and that's it. Okay, so just pay attention to any sort of greatest common factors or any other type of factoring that you could do when simplifying these. Looking at 11, it's asking us to multiply the polynomials, so I'm just gonna basically FOIL it, distribute. So a times 3a squared is 3a cubed. A times negative a is gonna be negative a squared. A times 3 is gonna be 3a. 3 times 3a squared is gonna be 9a squared. 3 times negative a is going to be minus 3a. 3 times 3 is 9. Now, combining like terms, my 3a cubed is by himself, so we'll bring him down. I have a negative a squared and a positive 9. This is essentially a negative 1, so 9 minus 1 is going to be plus 8a squared. And then for my a's, I have a positive 3 and a negative 3. They actually cancel each other out. So we're not going to have that term. And then just bring down the 9. So this is your final answer. Looking at 12 and 13, we're going to use this graph. So 12, it's saying based on the graph, after how many months are the two memberships the same cost, and what is that cost? So looking here, it says this is time, and it's saying this is the cost. And so we're looking, if it's the same cost, that means they're going to have the same point. So the same cost, that is right there. So if we look over, they are the same cost at $100. So the cost is $100. But if we look down, move all the way down to this graph, that's exactly between 4 and 6. So we're going to say after 5 months, the total cost. All right, this is the cumulative cost is after 5 months, and that cost is you've paid $100. 13 is saying after 3 months, which membership has cost $60. So I found 3 on my graph right here, and I'm just gonna draw a line up, find my 2 points, and then looking over, we're gonna see what this point and this point. So looking at my graph, going from 50 to 100, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 marks. So this is it would make sense if it's going by 10, so 60, 70, 80, 90. So that means 60 is this blue line, which is going to be Gym B. All right. That is going to conclude the review video. If you have any other questions, you can ask me when in class. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day. Study hard.